Tell me about the pattern of forgetting. What are in the 25 years, the ears of your audience when they listen? I mean, there's a lot that's happened since the Civil War documentary. I mean, there's Facebook and email and Snapchat, and is there the attention span for these lessons to be heard again, or are we more in the business of forgetting than ever?
You know, it was interesting. 25 years ago, the critics said, "Oh, this is terrific, but no one's going to watch it, Ken. There's MTV and the fast-paced cutting. People have the attention span of a gnat." And essentially, we're saying the same things now. We live in a world in which we are being buried in an avalanche of information that comes from this near constant present moment. And if you live in the present, in a disposable present, nothing else matters. We are desperate, though, for meaning. We're desperate for curation. So when somebody stops and says, here's 11 and a half hours about the most important event in American history, you might go, huh. But they watched back then, and they watch now, the Roosevelts or the national parks or our film on World War II or jazz or baseball. And I think it's because all of that information comes to us sort of unregulated, unmediated, and we do want that curation. We do want somebody to say, let me tell you how. So when we talk about binge watching, that's essentially people saying, I wish to be the author of my own time. I mean, we all know what it's like to be at some website which is aggregating news, and a half an hour later you have no idea what you just read. Maybe you'll be glib and articulate at the next cocktail party, but you can't even remember what it was. But you don't forget a Civil War, you don't forget a Downton Abbey, you don't forget a House of Cards, you don't forget whatever it is that has your attention span. And in the end, all real meaning accrues in duration. The work that you care about the most, the relationships you care about the most, have benefited from your sustained attention, and that is true for every human being.
You've studied Jefferson, the Roosevelts, Lincoln. You've spent time thinking about presidents and the long scope of history.
Yeah.
Give me your reflections on the presidency now, what we tolerate in left, right, center, whatever, in our leaders now, and whether our lack of patience, whether there's a problem with that or whether it's always been thus.
It's the best question, and really the only question there is about contemporary elections. And I think, let me lead with the good news. The election of 1800 between Thomas Jefferson, arguably the man of the millennium, despite all his flaws, and John Adams, one of the most important and interesting figures in all of American history, was as low and as dirty as you could possibly get. If you were going to vote for Jefferson, that meant your wife and your daughter were subject to rape by those Jacobins. And if you were voting for John Adams, you were voting for the next king of America. That didn't happen. And so we can sit back and exhale a little bit and go, okay, the kind of circus that we see has kind of always gone on. We do have a problem in which we have a media that is bigger than the ideas and the talk itself. If Abraham Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address, which is only 2 minutes, C-SPAN would cover it, but there'd be a stand-up and saying the president came to Gettysburg to try to distract attention from his disastrous military campaign out west, meaning Tennessee. And that was partly true. That's what he was not trying to distract attention, he was trying to honor the dead, but that would have been the news story, and we might have missed the greatest speech, even though somebody saw it on C-SPAN and say, that was it, yeah, I don't have time to do that, send me a YouTube of it. And that's the problem. We can see in the long scope of history that there's something really elegant, there's something really complicated and subtle about history, about leadership, and that we have a mechanism right now that doesn't always select for that.
Do you think we're too disposable in the way we treat leaders?
Very much so, very much so. And I find the way we throw them out and make instantaneous judgments. The notion that Abraham Lincoln or even George Washington or Thomas Jefferson didn't have a misstep or didn't have a sort of slow second term or didn't do something, now it's, that's it. This presidency is over. It's done. And we tend, I think the good thing about history, Harry Truman said the only thing that's really new is the history you don't know. And I think in some ways that sort of saying that it gives you, it arms you with a kind of distance that permits you to not make those rash judgments about somebody or some idea. When the meltdown happened, friends would say, oh, we're in a depression. I said, in the depression, in most American cities, the animals in the zoo were shot and the meat distributed to the poor. When that happens, I'll agree we're in a depression. And then all of a sudden, you get to exhale again. And maybe that's history's greatest gift. I mean, Faulkner knew it wasn't then, it's now. It's not was, it's is. And I think that's what this Civil War is talking to us, as if it happened not 150 years ago, but right now, right now.